Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today I wanted to just talk about a general overview of Call of Duty Vanguard Multiplayer, give my thoughts and opinions about what I feel about the game so far based off of the alpha experience alone, and also talk a bit about what Sledgehammer actually announced today. There was a brand new update today, trios were added in, and Sledgehammer also revealed a few of the things that they're already looking on changing for, I would assume, the beta and obviously the full release of the game as well. So as we go through everything, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated, and it really does help out the channel. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with absolutely everything going on in the world of Call of Duty, news, intel, updates, and really everything else in between. So let's dive into my general thoughts and opinions. First things first, I want to say this at the end of the day is just an alpha. This is a very minuscule part of the game that we get to experience, and obviously it's very limited at that. We're only playing the 2v2 / the 3v3 mode in Champion Hill. We only get to experience 4 of the maps, which are just the 2v2 and 3v3 maps. We only get to experience a handful of the weapons and the perks and the equipment and everything. And obviously it is just on PlayStation. If you're like me, I play Call of Duty on PC now. I play Warzone on PC, Cold War, MW, so I'm not used to playing on console as much anymore. There are limitations here. There is no FOV slider in the alpha. You are locked at 60 FPS unless you have a HDMI 2.0 monitor, which I don't. So my experience was drastically, I feel like, held back in a way. Because of that, I'm used to 120 FOV. I'm used to my PlayStation 4 SCUF, not the PS5 controller, which I'm not really a huge fan of. I'm used to 120, 130, 150 plus FPS, right? Like, it's a very different experience going from when I'm usually playing on Warzone to this for an alpha. But that said, even despite all those limitations, overall, I would say I'm enjoying Vanguard quite a bit. And it definitely exceeded my expectations because looking back at what I was playing on console before, it was not even close to the same experience as on PC. But even for this being limited by console, it still felt very good. And like I said in my initial impressions video back when I got to play the game early, my expectations were exceeded. I was sort of blown away at the fact that it ran so well on PlayStation 5 and it felt as good as it did, despite not being what I'm used to playing, right? So just wanted to get that out of the way. It wasn't really what I was used to playing, and I was sort of uncomfortable for that, but despite the limitations in place, I was pleasantly surprised. But at the same time, this is just an alpha, not even close to resembling the finished product that we're going to have in November. So to judge the entire game off of this is impossible. This is simply here for us to sort of see what the game is going to be like, build a certain set of expectations, and more importantly, help the devs figure out what we want to see changed in the game right away, and to see what we can potentially break in the game so that they can fix it for launch and even for the beta potentially. So it's hard to judge the game off of this. It's more so like we're playing this for what it is. We get to experience part of it, but it's not really even close to what the full game is going to be. So just take everything, for what it's worth with that. But getting into my pros and cons, we'll start first with the positives, what I've enjoyed so far with the alpha. Initially, Ghost. I love how Ghost works in this game. It only works when you're moving or if you're planting or defusing, it says as well, or if you're in kill streaks. If you're sitting still, if you're hunkered down in a corner like little Timmy, it's not going to protect you if you have it, and I love that. I feel like that's how Ghost should always work. You guys know I'm very adamant about disagreeing with how Ghost works in Warzone. It's too protective and too much of a crutch. It works perfectly in this game, and I love that. Huge pro from me. The gunplay also feels very solid in my opinion. Weapons weren't just point and shoot and like brainless as they are in Cold War, where you don't really have to work to control recoil. It's like the weapons are too easy to use in that game. In this game, it feels like they have character. You notice how they feel when you're using them. You have to control recoil patterns. They're not just, like I said, point and shoot. You have to work to get kills, and that feels sort of rewarding, and I like that. I feel like the gunplay felt very smooth, and I feel like it's going to be even better when I can play on 120 FOV, an affected field of view and whatnot. So I like the gunplay so far, and I feel like that's only going to get better. I also like the weapon selection that we had. They felt good. The attachments were cool. All around, just when it comes to the weaponry, I was very impressed, and I liked that quite a bit. Of course, it's World War II. We can only have so much diversity with weapons, and it's going to be weapons we've seen before, so it's not all quote-unquote new in that sense. But as far as the way it felt, I liked that quite a bit. The movement also felt decent. It's not nearly as smooth as Warzone movement in my opinion, but again, we're not on 120 FOV. I'm not on my usual controller. It's not as smooth as 240 FPS right on PC. So I feel like that could also change and only improve as time goes on. But for playing on an unfamiliar controller and for playing on console, the movement still felt decent in my opinion. I liked the sliding. I liked the sprinting speed with tack sprint and everything. It just felt good, and you could tell it was definitely polished and not nearly as clunky as Cold War's yet again. And then finally, for my pros, I did enjoy the map's flows. Rhymes. The maps seem like they flowed nicely. There are some issues that I have with the maps that I'll talk about here in a moment, but as far as the 2v2 and 3v3 gameplay went, it felt like there was constant action and they flowed nicely. You could tell how to maneuver through them and whatnot. So the map's design I felt like was pretty solid. But physical things on the map I wasn't a huge fan of. I feel like some of them are a bit too destructive and like paper thin almost. You could wall bang too much. It just felt like I would be behind like a stone brick pillar and I was still getting shot through it. I feel like some weapons, I don't know if it's a weapon problem or a map problem, but you could just get shot through too many different things to the point where sometimes you just never felt like you were safe and fully in cover, right? Sort of touching on that and sort of adding on top of that, the weapons, specifically the bar with the explosive rounds and the FMJ, felt a little bit too dominant and a little bit too broken. There were multiple times throughout my playtest so far where I was behind cover by a pretty large portion, like I'm way behind a crate, and these explosive rounds were just frying everything through everything. There was no escaping them. It seemed like they were very broken, very spammable, and easily abused, so hopefully that gets toned down quite a bit. It was is a little bit rough there. I also was not a huge fan of how dark your screen got when you got injured. I think this was an issue back in MW where your screen got really, really gray when you were low health and it stayed there for too long. Pretty much the same deal here. When you are low health, your screen goes black. You can't see like anything. That hopefully is going to get changed. We'll talk more about this towards the end of the video. Then finally, for my cons, the minimap. I don't like how that works. It's the MW minimap where when you shoot, you don't show up as a red dot even if you don't have a suppressor on. I don't agree with that. I feel like that's too much protection for no reason. I liked how it worked in Cold War. That minimap was good, and all the minimaps prior to MW 2019 were good. You don't show up on the minimap if you're using a suppressor, but if you don't have a silenced weapon, you're gonna show up as a red dot. I feel like that's how the minimap should work, so I don't agree with how it works currently. Hopefully that gets changed. Now, all that said, today Sledgehammer tweeted out and said what all they have, compiled so far with changes and things that they're going to work on fixing and updating. So here's what they said. Issues we're addressing include visibility when damaged. So something we talked about there. It's just too dark when you are injured. They're gonna look into that and change that some. Spawn tuning. The spawns were very bad. I didn't include that in my cons list, but yeah, the spawns on the 2v2 maps, not great. I've been spawning behind people. People have been spawning behind me. Thank goodness they are working on that. Map visibility, sometimes I did notice like it was hard to see players behind cover or spot players when they were in an area that I probably should have seen them, so they're gonna work on that some. Audio mix tuning, I'm sort of up in the air with. The footsteps don't seem all that audible, and I don't know if I like that or don't like that, honestly. I like that I can't be heard, but sometimes I don't like that I can't hear players that are like right on top of me, so they are gonna be tuning the audio some. I would assume that's primarily regarding footsteps. Nameplate visibility issues. Sometimes players' names would appear through things that they shouldn't appear through, like through multiple walls. I know I experienced that some. Then also aim assist through destructible walls. You could definitely tell when some players are moving behind a pillar or behind a wall and you were standing in front of it, because you would get that aim assist slowdown and like sort of pulls. So those are a handful of things they're working on. Definitely all good things in my opinion. And all around, like I said, I was relatively impressed by the alpha, but really I don't have any major opinions on the game until we can play the beta and get a true experience of what multiplayer is going to be like. But for what the alpha was, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, but that's going to wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.